Okay, so now we have our form in place, and we have the fields we need to get the basic information from the user that wants to contact us. So now we need to plug everything in so that when the user fills in the information and hits the send button, a message is actually sent. And we can do that within our PHP markup. So we need to head to the top of our index file, and we add in our PHP scripts, which starts with an angle bracket, a question mark, and then simply PHP. Then we close the script off with another question mark and then a right angle bracket. So all of our PHP markup will go inside these PHP scripts. So the first thing that we're going to do is sort out our validation. So if there's an error within the form, such as if there's a field missing, or if they don't put in a valid email, or if they don't tick the spam box, it will kick back an error. Now we start our code with an if statement, and we need to know if the submit button has been pressed or not. So we need to add our function into a set of brackets. So we add in the $sign to declare the variable, then an underscore. Then as we're using the post method, we add in post. And if you're using the get method, obviously you would need to add get into here. Then we add in our post value within a set of square brackets. And in here we need to add in the HTML form element for the button, which we simply called submit. So we add that in with some single quotes. Then next what we need to do is add in our curly brackets. Now the next step is to actually check if the user has input a name into the field. And if no name is found, then we need to declare an error variable that states what the user needs to do to correct their error. So within our first if statement, we need to add another if statement in. And again we add in the brackets for our function. And we add the same information in again. However, this time we need to make sure we add in our name element, which will link us to our name field within our form. Then we add in our curly brackets. However, this time as we're looking for an error, we need to add in the exclamation mark into our function. This basically means not. So what this function states is, if the name doesn't have a value, then you need to do something. Now we just need to tell it what we want to do. So within our curly brackets for this statement, we need to add in our variable for our error. So we can simply add in our $sign. Then we can simply call this variable error. Then we just add in what the error will state. So we can add in the equal sign and our quotation mark. Then I'll add in please enter your name. Then we simply end that with a semicolon. So basically what we have so far is if the user presses the submit button and there is no name value within the name field on the form, then an error of please enter your name will be displayed. Now what we can actually do next is copy this name statement and we'll paste it underneath for our other if statements. Then we just need to change our element names to match. So we can change this second one to email. Then again we can paste in another statement and change our element to message. Then we just need to change the error message to please enter a message. And finally we can add our checkbox statement, which we will call check. And we can change the message to please confirm you are human. And again you can change these messages to anything you like. These are just the basic default messages that are standard for any form. And one thing to do is just make sure you have all your brackets or parentheses and square brackets in the right place, as it is easy for these to get missed or extra ones added, as these may throw up errors if they're in the wrong position or some have been missed out. Then what we can do now is actually test it to make sure that it works. So what we need to do is decide where our error is going to be displayed on the page. So if we scroll down to our form, we can display our error just under our title, so in here. And again you can add this wherever you like on your form. So we add in our PHP script again. And we can use the echo command here, which basically gives us an output for our PHP. So any messages will be displayed in this location. You can obviously choose somewhere different if you like, but this position makes sense to me. Then we need to add in our variable. So we can add in another $sign, and we can simply call this result, as this is the result of our script when it is actually ran. Now if we head back to our PHP scripts at the top of the page, we need to set up another if statement that sorts out the errors and displays either the issues or the success messages to the user. So we add another if statement in, and this time we call our error variable. Then we add in our curly brackets. So basically, if the submit button is pressed and we have an error, we need to set our result. So we can add our variable that we set up within our HTML form, which was result. Then we need to display our messages. So we add an equals, then we add in our message. So I'll just add in, whoops, there is an error. Then we add our semicolon. Then again, if we save that off and overwrite our file, then refresh our page, we can see that everything is displayed correctly, and if we hit our submit button, we can actually see our error message displayed. Now the only problem is that the user doesn't know specifically what the problem is, so what we can do is target each error depending on what the user has missed off the form. So in our error messages, we can simply add some more text, such as please correct the following. Then we add in our error variable. So this will call a specific error and display it for the user. So if we just quickly save that off, and then refresh our page, now you can see that the error has been displayed. However, it's just the last error in the list, so it doesn't display all of them, so it could be confusing for the user. Now all we need to do here to correct this is add a full stop after each of the error variables. This basically adds on the other errors. So in PHP, the way to think of it is that a full stop can be used as a plus sign. Now we don't need to add anything to the name error, as this is just the first one in the list, and there are no errors before this. So all we need to do is simply add our full stops to the email, message, and check errors. Then this will append each error message after the next. So if we just save that off, and overwrite the file again, and then refresh the page, now you can see that is much better. Each of the errors is actually applied, and if we just fill in the name field and hit submit, that error should disappear. There we go. And if we try the email and message, we can actually see that that's working fine. Now the errors aren't really looking very good because they are just added one after the other. So what we can do is add a line break before each message to separate them out from one another. So if we just add those in, so I'll start with the name, then the email, then the message, and the check error. Then again, if we just save that off, update the page, and then refresh our page, we can see that the errors are actually broken up so the user can clearly see what's going on. And if we fill in the name field, the name error should disappear. Excellent. Now one thing you may notice is that each time the submit button is hit, the information that the user enters actually disappears. Now that's not a bad thing, but if they forget to fill in their email correctly or forget to hit the check button, then all the information will disappear. But what we can do is fix this by adding some PHP script into our form. So if we switch back to our index file and then just scroll down to our form, and in our name input, what we need to do is actually add in our variable. So we add the value tag into the input, and we can add our PH script into this tag, followed by our echo, which will display what is added into our variable. So either our name, email, or message. So we need to add in our name, which we grab from our other script at the top of the page. So we can simply copy the name variable and then paste that into our value here. Then we just need to add a semicolon onto the end of the statement. So we can actually do the same for our email. So we add in our value tag. Then we add in the PHP script. Then we need to go and grab our email code from up here. Then we simply copy that. Then we paste that into our email value and again add our semicolon. Now we need to do this on our message section. However, this is a little different. We don't need the value tag in here. We simply add in our PHP scripts between the opening tag and the closing tag. So just in here. And again, we grab our message variable from up the top and then we paste it into our message field. And then we add in our semicolon. Now we don't actually need to do this for our checkbox, as it will be good to get the user to tick the box each time. So if we just save off our file and then overwrite and then refresh our page. If we fill in our name and then hit submit, we should see that our name will actually remain in the form. So that makes the form a lot easier to use and a lot more user friendly. So now we have our errors sorted, we need to actually sort what happens when the user fills in the information correctly and hits the submit button. Because at the moment, if we fill in the information, nothing actually happens. So back into our index file, into our error if statement, we can add an else statement, then another set of curly brackets. So basically, if there's information missing, it will display this message. Else, it will do whatever we add into this else statement, which will be the success message and the email that is sent after the form is submitted. So we add in our mail function, then in here we add our email address we want the information going to, our message subject, and what information you need from the message. So what we do is we start with our email address. So I'll add in here php@coderandyc.com. Obviously you add in your own email address here. Then you add in the subject line, so contact message. And again, add in whatever subject you want it to display when it comes through. Then finally what we need to do is add in the content of the message. Now we want to know what each section of the message is. So the first piece of information I'd like to know is the name. So I'll add in the name string. Then we need to call our name. So we add in the full stop, then our variable. So we add that in, making sure we add the full stop at the end because we want to add on more information. So next we add in our email. So we can add in the email string, and again we add our quotes, then our full stop, then we add in the email variable, and then our full stop. And then finally we add in our message information. So again we add in our quotations, then we add in the variable, and then the message value. Then we add in our closing brackets and our semicolon. So what we've done here is add in our email address, our subject form, and the body of our message, which is taken from the variables and the names we set up within our form. So now if the information is correct and the inputs are filled in correctly, we need to add in our success message so the user knows that the message has been sent. So we add another statement in here with our curly brackets, and then we add in our result variable. Then we simply need to add our success message, so we can add in "Thank you, I'll be in touch shortly." Now again, feel free to add whatever message you want in here. Then all we need to do is save off the page, then overwrite the file. Then if we refresh our page, then we should actually have a working contact form that states an error message if there is no information filled in. And if we fill the information in, we should see our success message, and an email should be sent to the inbox that you stated within the PHP script. So if we just check the inbox of the email I set up, we can see that the email is actually there waiting for us, and this is just from a test server, so it's from a strange address. But we can actually see the name, email, and the message that we've sent through our form. So what we have here is actually a fully working contact form that we built with HTML and PHP. So now we have the actual form working the way we want to. What we can do now is move on to styling the form so it looks a lot more user friendly, and what we'll do is we'll do that within our next lecture.